Vishtam Vishnupad Rashtatarashata Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Śrīla Gurudev Ki Jai Nitil Vishtam Vishnupad Rashtatarashata Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Vishtam Vishnupad Rashtatarashata Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Vishtam Maha-Bhagavat Śrīla Gorakṣaras Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pavishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Nitil Pavishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupana Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadash Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namachay Śrīla Haridas Thakur Ki Jai प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदत्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री मोन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। और प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणेति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तरभक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तवैवास्मि तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं। भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Dandavat pranams Indira Mataji, Rohit Radhakrishnan ji, Gargraj ji, Kishore Prabhu, and Rup Manjari Didi, and Raseshwari Mataji. Hari Bol, Dandavat pranams everybody. So yesterday, we read about how King Sudumna becomes a woman. Let's see. So first, Parikshit Maharaj inquires about Vaivasvata Manu's descendants. He says, "You have described all the Manvantars and the wonderful activities of the unlimitedly potent Lord Hari in those periods. You spoke about King Satyavrat, who received spiritual knowledge from the Lord, who later became Vaivasvata Manu and had sons like Ikshvaku. I am eager to hear from you of the dynasties, characteristics, and abilities of all the past, present, and future pious kings in the lineage of Vaivasvata Manu." When Parikshit Maharaj thus asked Shukadeva Goswami, the greatest knower of Dharma, he said, "Hear in great detail about the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu, although it is not possible to speak everything, even in hundreds of years." So it's a synopsis. So now the birth of Ila and her transformation into Sudumna. The Supreme Lord, the super soul of all beings, existed at the end of Brahma's Kalpa, when everything was inundated and nothing existed. Vaivasvata Manu's lineage from Garbha Kshay Vishnu gave birth or whatever to Brahma, then Marichi, then Kashyapa, who married Aditi, Viviswan, who married Sangya, and they gave birth to 10 sons: Ikshvaku, Nṛga, Sharyati, Diṣṭa, Dhṛṣṭa, Karūshaka, Nariṣyanta, Pṛṣadhra, Nṛga, and Kavi. So I think we're going to read about them today, right? These 10 sons. And then, oh, whoops, I went the wrong way. I didn't notice the arrow, sorry. Viviswan and Sangya gave birth to Shraddhadev or Vaivasvata Manu. And through Shraddha, they had these 10 sons. Okay. And there's a note here. It's a generalization to say that 10 sons were born from Manu's wife Shraddha. Ikshvaku was actually born from Manu's nostril when he sneezed. Please refer to Canto 9, Chapter 6, Verse 4. Okay, so we'll get there. Initially, Vaivasvata Manu had no sons, so in order to get a son for him, Vasishtha performed a sacrifice to satisfy the Devatas Mitra and Varuna. During that sacrifice, Manu's wife Shraddha, who was observing Payavrata, the vow of subsisting only on milk, approached the priest and begged for a daughter. The priest offered the oblations into the fire, but due to the distraction, a daughter was born. Manu was happy and gave her the name Ila, but his desire for a son still remained, and thus he was dissatisfied. Then Manu asked Vasishtha, "You are all experts in chanting Vedic mantras, well versed in the Vedas, self-controlled, austere, and sinless. Your words are like those of the Devatas, and they are never baffled. Then how was the result of the sacrifice opposite? How did your determination fail?" Vasishtha understood the cause and spoke to Vaivasvata. "This discrepancy is due to your priest's deviation. However, by my own prowess, I shall give you a son." Vasishtha offered prayers to Vishnu to transform Ila into a male. Being pleased, the Lord granted Vasishtha's desire, and thus Ila was transformed into a fine male named Sudumna. Sudumna becomes a female and regains his maleness. Once Sudumna, along with his associates, went into the forest to hunt, equipped with armor, bows, and arrows.
While following the animals, he entered the Sukumar forest, where Lord Shiva always enjoys with Uma. Sudumna suddenly saw himself transformed into a female and his horse into a mare. Even his followers found their genders reversed and became confused. Maharaj Parikshit asked, why was that Sukumar forest so empowered? And who made it so powerful? Shukadeva Goswami explains as follows. Once some great effulgent sages, fixed in their vows, came to see Lord Shiva in the Sukumar forest. At that time, Ambika was naked on the lap of Shiva. Seeing the sages, she was ashamed and immediately covered herself. Seeing Shiva and Parvati in intimate affairs, the sages departed for the ashram of Narayan. Thereupon, just to please his wife, Lord Shiva said, any male entering this place shall immediately become a female. Since then, no male entered the forest. King Sudumna, having been transformed into a beautiful woman, began loitering in that forest along with his associates, now women. So along with her associates. Buddha, the son of the moon god, saw her, and both of them desired each other. Thus Buddha became her husband and begot in her womb a son named Pururava. Later, Sudumna, as a woman, remembered his familial guru Vasishtha. Aggrieved upon seeing his condition, Vasishtha worshipped Lord Shiva. Being pleased, Shiva told Vasishtha, Sudumna may remain a male for 1 month and a female for the next. Sudumna thus regained his maleness every alternate month and thus ruled the world, although his citizens were not satisfied with this. Sudumna had 3 sons, namely Utkala, Gaya, and Bimala, who became the kings of the Dakshinapāt. When Sudumna became old, he delivered the entire kingdom to his father Pururava and retired to the forest. So now we're going to hear about the dynasties of the sons of Manu. The stories of Pṛṣadhra and Kavi. So these first 2 sons here, right? Oh no, Kavi and Pṛṣadhra. We're going to hear about them. All right. Let's see. Haribo, Shash Sharma ji, Champak Didi, and Savitri Didi. Dandavat pranams, everybody. All right. Chapter 2, the dynasties of the sons of Manu. This second chapter describes the dynasties of the sons of Manu, headed by Karūsa. After Sudumna accepted the order of Vanaprastha and departed for the forest, Vaivasvata Manu, being desirous of sons, worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead and consequently begot 10 sons, like Maharaj Ikshvaku, all of whom were like their father. One of these sons, Pṛṣadhra, was engaged in the duty of protecting cows at night with a sword in his hand. Following the order of his spiritual master, he would stand in this way for the entire night. Once, in the darkness of night, a tiger seized a cow from the cowshed, and when Pṛṣadhra came to know this, he took a sword in his hand and followed the tiger. Unfortunately, when he finally approached the tiger, he could not distinguish between the cow and the tiger in the darkness, and thus he killed the cow. Because of this, his spiritual master cursed him to take birth in a Shudra family. But Pṛṣadhra practiced mystic yoga, and in Bhakti yoga, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then he voluntarily entered a blazing forest fire, thus relinquishing his material body and going back home, back to Godhead. Kavi, the youngest son of Manu, was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from his very childhood. From Manu's son, known as Karūsa, a sect of Kshatriyas known as Karūshas was generated. Manu also had a son known as Dhṛṣṭa, from whom another sect of Kshatriyas was generated. But although they were born of one who had the qualities of a Kshatriya, they became Brahmins. From Nṛga, another son of Manu, came sons known as Sumati, Bhutajoti, and Vasu. From Vasu, in succession, came Pratika, and from him came Ogavan. Descending in order from the seminal dynasty of Nariṣyanta, another son of Manu, were Chitrasena, Riksha, Midvan, Purna, Indrasena, Vitihotra, Satrashava, Urushrava, Devadatta, and Agnivesha. From the Kshatriya known as Agnivesha came the celebrated Brahmin dynasty known as Agniveshayan. From the seminal dynasty of Diṣṭa, another son of Manu, came Nabhaga, and from him in succession came Balandana, Vatsapriti, Prankshu, Pramati, Kanitra, Chakshusha, Vivingshati, Ramba, Kaninetra, Karandama, Avikshit, Maruta, Dama, Rajavardhana, Sudhriti, Nara, Kevala, Dhundhuman, Begavan, Buddha, and Trinabindu. In this way, many sons and grandsons were born in this dynasty. From Trinabindu came a daughter named Ilavila, from whom Kuvera took birth. Trinabindu also had 3 sons named Vishala, Shunyabandhu, and Dhumraketu. The son of Vishala was Hemachandra. His son was Dhumraksha, and his son was Samyama. The sons of Samyama were Devaja and Krishashva. Krishashva's son Somadatta performed an Ashwamedha sacrifice, and by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, he achieved the supreme perfection of going back home, back to Godhead. Wow, this is a really exciting chapter. Sorry. Okay. Well, the first part is that's pretty interesting. Okay. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Gate Tasudyumne Manurvaivasvata Sute Putra Kamastapastepe Yamunayam Shasama. Shukadev Goswami said, thereafter, when his son Sudyumna had thus gone to the forest to accept the order of Vanaprast, Vaivasvat Manu, Shraddhadev, being desirous of... Okay, so he has 2 names then, huh? Vaivasvata Manu, Shraddhadev, being desirous of getting more sons, performed severe austerities on the bank of the Yamuna for 100 years. Okay, so that's why he was so attached to having a son. He did 100 years of austerity just to get a son. Tatoya janmanur devam apatyartam harim prabhum ikshvaku purvajan putran lebhesva sadrishan dasha. Then, because of this desire for sons, the Manu known as Shraddhadev worshipped the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, the Lord of the demigods. Thus he got 10 sons exactly like himself. Among them all, Ikshvaku was the eldest. Pṛṣadhra. Oh, sorry. I was thinking of something else. Yeah, we already read about Ila. Sorry, guys. Among these sons, Pṛṣadhra, following the order of his spiritual master, was engaged as a protector of cows. He would stand all night with a sword to give the cows protection. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who becomes Virasa takes the vow to stand all night with a sword to give protection to the cows. That's a yoga pose also that's like that thing, right? Anyways. Because Pṛṣadhra was engaged in this way, it is understood that he had no dynasty. We can further understand from this vow accepted by Pṛṣadhra how essential it is to protect the cows. Some son of a Kshatriya would take this vow to protect the cows from ferocious animals, even at night. What then is to be said of sending cows to slaughterhouses? This is the most sinful activity in human society. Ekada pravishar ghoshtam shardulo nishivarshati shayana gava uttaya bhitasta bhabramur vraje. Once at night, while it was raining, a tiger entered the land of the cowshed. Upon seeing the tiger, all the cows who were lying down got up in fear and scattered here and there on the land. Ekam jagraha balavan sachukrosha bhayatura tasyastu kranditam shrutva Pṛṣadhra nu sasaraha khadgam adaya tarasa pralino dugane nishi ajanan achinor babro shira shardula shankaya. When the very strong tiger seized the cow screamed in distress and fear, and Pṛṣadhra, hearing the screaming, immediately followed the sounds. He took up his sword, but because the stars were covered by clouds, he mistook the cow for the tiger and mistakenly cut off the cow's head with great force. Vyagropi vrikna shravano nistringshar grahatastata nishchakrama brishambhito raktam pati samutsrijan. Because the tiger's ear had been cut by the edge of the sword, the tiger was very afraid, and it fled from that place while bleeding on the street. Manyamano hatam vyagram Pṛṣadhra paraviraha adrakshit svahatang babhrum vyushtayam nishidukitaha. In the morning, when Pṛṣadhra, who was quite able to subdue his enemy, saw that he had killed the cow, although at night he thought he had killed the tiger, he was very unhappy. Tan shashapa kulacharya kritagasam akamataha nakshatra bandhu shudrastvam karmana bhavita muna. Although Pṛṣadhra had committed the sin unknowingly, his family priest Vasiṣṭha cursed him, saying, "In your next life you shall not be able to become a kshatriya. Instead, you shall take birth as a shudra because of killing a cow." Purport. It appears that Vasiṣṭha was not free of tamagun, the mode of ignorance. As the family priest or spiritual master of Pṛṣadhra, Vasiṣṭha should have taken Pṛṣadhra's offense very lightly, but instead Vasiṣṭha cursed him to become a shudra. It is the duty of a family priest not to curse a disciple, but to give him relief through the performance of some sort of atonement. Vasiṣṭha, however, did just the opposite. Therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that he was durmati. In other words, his intelligence was not very good. Evam shaptastu guruna pratyagrinat kritanjali adharayad vratam vira urdvareta muni priyam. When the hero Pṛṣadhra was thus cursed by his spiritual master, he accepted the curse with folded hands. Then, having controlled his senses, he took the vow of brahmacharya, which is approved by all great sages. Vasudeve Bhagavati Sarvatmani Pare Male Ekantitvam Gato Bhaktya Sarvabhuta Suritsama Vimukta Sangas Shantatma Sanyataksha Parigraha Yadrichayopapanena Kalpayan Vritimatmanam Atmanaha Atmanyatmanam Adaya Jnana Tripta Samahita Vichachara Mahim Etam Jaranda Bhadirakriti. Thereafter, Pṛṣadhra gained relief from all responsibilities, became peaceful in mind, and established control over all his senses. being unaffected by material conditions, being pleased with whatever was available by the grace of the Lord to maintain body and soul together, and being equal toward everyone. He gave full attention to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who is the transcendental Supersoul, free from material contamination. Thus, Pṛṣadhra, fully satisfied in pure knowledge, always keeping his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, achieved pure devotional service to the Lord and began traveling all over the world without affection for material activities, as if he were deaf, dumb, and blind. Evam vrito vanam gatva dṛṣṭva dāvagnimutthitam teno payukta karano brahma prapya param muni. I had too much kheer last night. With this attitude, Pṛṣadhra became a great saint, and when he entered the forest and saw a blazing forest fire, he took this opportunity to burn his body in the fire. Thus he achieved the transcendental spiritual world. That's not considered suicide? Anyways. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Janma karma chame divyam evang yo veti tattvata takta deham punar janma naiti mam eti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in the world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Pṛṣadhra, because of his karma, was cursed to take his next birth as a Shudra, but because he took to saintly life, specifically concentrating his mind always on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he became a pure devotee. Immediately after giving up his body in the fire, he reached the spiritual world as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Mam Eti, as a result of his devotional situation. Devotional service performed by thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so powerful that although Pṛṣadhra was cursed, he avoided that terrible consequence of becoming a Shudra and instead returned home back to Godhead. As stated in Brahma Samhita 554, Yastvindra gopamata Vendra mahosva karma bandhanurupa falabhajanamatanoti karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Those who engage in devotional service are unaffected by the results of their material activities. Otherwise, everyone, from the smallest microbe up to the king of heaven Indra, is subject to the laws of karma. A pure devotee, being always engaged in the service of the Lord, is exempt from these laws. Kavi kaniyam vishayeshu nispriho viseja rajam sahabandubhirvanam nivesha chitte purusham rochisham vivesha kaishora vaya param gataha. Being reluctant to accept material enjoyment, Manu's youngest son, whose name was Kavi, gave up the kingdom before attaining full youth. Accompanied by his friends, he went to the forest, always thinking of the self-effulgent Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart. Thus he attained perfection. Karūshan manavarasan karusha kshatrajataya uttara patagoptaro brahmanya dharmavatsala. From Karūsa, another son of Manu, came the Karūsa dynasty, a family of Kshatriyas. The Karūsa Kshatriyas were the kings of the northern direction. They were celebrated protectors of Brahminical culture and were all firmly religious. Dhṛṣṭam abhut kshatram brahma bhuyam gatang shito Nṛgasya vangsha sumatir bhuta jyotis tato vasu. From the son of Manu, named Dhṛṣṭa, came a Kshatriya caste called Dhṛṣṭa, whose members achieved the position of Brahmins in this world. Then from the son of Manu, named Nṛga, came Sumati. From Sumati came Bhuta Jyoti, and from Bhuta Jyoti came Vasu. Purport. Here it is said, Kshatram Brahma Bhuyam Gatam Kshito. Although the Dhṛṣṭas belonged to the Kshatriya caste, they were able to convert themselves into Brahmins. This gives clear evidence supporting the statement by Narad from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 7:11-35, which is also evidence. Gives clear evidence supporting this evidence. Yasya yal lakshanam proktam punkso varna bhyanjakam yad anyatrapi dhrishtyeta tattenaiva vinirdishet. If the qualities of one group are found in the men of another, those men should be recognized by their qualities, by their symptoms, not by the castes of that family in which they were born. Birth is not at all important. It is one's qualities that are stressed in all Vedic literature. Vaso pratikas tatputra o ghavan o ghavat pita kanya cho ghavati nama sudarshana uvahatam. The son of Vasu was Pratika, whose son was Oghavan. Oghavan's son was also known as Oghavan, Oghavan II, and his daughter was Oghavati. Sudarshan married that daughter. Chitrasena Nariṣyanta Nṛikṣastasya suto bhavat tasya midvangshtata purna Indrasena stutatsuta. From Nariṣyanta came a son named Chitrasena, and from him a son named Riksha. From Riksha came Midvan, and from Midvan came Purna, and from Purna came Indrasena. Vitihutras Tvindrasenat tasya satya shrava abhut uru shrava sutastasya devadatas tato bhavat. From Indrasena came Vitihotra. From Vitihotra came Satyashrava. From Satyashrava came the son named Urushrava. And from Urushrava came Devadatta. Tato Agni Vesho Bhagavan Agni Swayam Abhutsuta Kanina iti Vikyato Jatu Karnyo Mahan Rishi. From Devadatta came a son known as Agni Vesha, who is the fire god Agni himself. This son, who is a celebrated saint, was well known as Kanina and Jatukarnya. Purport. Agni Vesha was also known as Kanina and Jatukarnya. Tato Brahma Kulam Jatam Agni Veshayanam Nripa Nariṣyantan Vaya Prokto Diṣṭa Bhaksham Atashrinu. O king, from Agni Vesha came a Brahminical dynasty known as Agni Veshayana. Now that I have described the descendants of Nariṣyanta, let me describe the descendants of Diṣṭa. Please hear from me. You know, this would be the best bedtime thing. Oh, Krishna, it makes me so tired. Na bhago Diṣṭa putronya karmana vaishyatam gata balandana sutastasya vatsa pritir balandanat vatsa prite suta prangshus tat sutam pramatim vidu kanitra pramistasmat chakshushota vivingshati. Diṣṭa had a son by the name Nabhaga. This Nabhaga, who is different from the Nabhaga described later, became a Vaishya by occupational duty. A Vaishya? Oh wait, sorry. Never mind. The son of Nabhaga was known as Balandana. The son of Balandana was Vatsapriti, and his son was Prangshu. Prangshu's son was Pramati. Pramati's son was Kanitra. Kanitra's son was Chakshusha, and his son was Vivingshati. Purport. From Manu, one son became a Kshatriya, another a Brahman, and another a Vaishya. This confirms the statement by Narad Muni, Yasya yal lakshanam proktam pungsavarna bhivyanjakam, which we just read. One should always remember that Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas should never be regarded as members of a caste by birth. A Brahman may be changed into a Kshatriya, and a Kshatriya into a Brahman. Similarly, a Brahman or Kshatriya may be changed into a Vaishya, and a Vaishya into a Brahman or Kshatriya. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. One who is a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, never by birth, but by, one is a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, never by birth, but by quality. There is a great need of Brahmins. Therefore, in the Krishna consciousness movement, we are trying to train some Brahmins to guide human society. Because at present there is a scarcity of Brahmins, the brain of human society is lost. Because practically everyone is a Shudra, no one at the present moment can guide the members of society to the proper path by which to achieve perfection in life. Vivingshate sutorambha kanit netrosya dharmikaha karandhamo maharaja tasyasij atmajo nripa. The son of Vivingshati was Ramba, whose son was the great and religious king Kaninetra. O king, the son of Kaninetra was king... sorry guys. Karandama. Kaninetra's son was King Karandama. Tasya vikshit sutoyasya marutas chakravartya bhut samvarto yajaya yangvai mahayogyangira sutta. From Karandama came a son named Avikshit, and from Avikshit a son named Maruta, who was the emperor. The great mystic Samvarta, the son of Angira, engaged Maruta in performing a sacrifice, a yajna. Marutasya yata yagyo natatanyostin kashchana sarvam hiranmayam tvasid yatkinchid chasya shobhanam. The sacrificial paraphernalia of King Maruta was extremely beautiful, for everything was made of gold. Indeed, no other sacrifice could compare to his. Amadad Indra Somena Dakshinabhir Dvijataya Maruta Parivishtaro Vishvedeva Sabhasadaha. In that sacrifice, King Indra became intoxicated by drinking a large quantity of somaras. The Brahmins received ample contributions, and therefore they were satisfied. For that sacrifice, the various demigods who control the winds offered foodstuffs, and the Vishvadevas were members of the assembly. Purport. Because of the yoga performed by Maruta, everyone was pleased, especially the Brahmins and Kshatriyas. Brahmins are interested in receiving contributions as priests, and Kshatriyas are interested in drinking. All of them, therefore, were satisfied with their different engagements. Maruta Dhamaputras tasyasij rajavardhana sudritis tatsuto jagye sodrite yonarasutaha. Maruta's son was Dhamma. Dhamma's son was Rajavardhana. Rajavardhana's son was Sudriti, and his son was Narad. Tatsuta kevalastasmad dhanudham dhumnam vigavangshtata buddhastasyad bhavad yasya trena bindur mahipati. Chalo. The son of Nara was Kevala, and his son was Dhundhuman, whose son was Vegavan. Vegavan's son was Buddha, and Buddha's son was Trinabindu, who became the king of this earth. Tam bheje lampusha devi bhajaniya gunalayam varapsara yata putraha kanya chela vilabhavat. The best Pṛṣadhras, the highly qualified girl named Alampusha, accepted the similarly qualified Trinabindu as her husband. She gave birth to a few sons and a daughter known as Ilavila. Yes, utpadayam asa vishravadhanadhang sutam pradaya vidyam paramam rishir yogeshvara pitu. After the great saint Vishrava, the master of mystic yoga, received absolute knowledge from his father, he begot in the womb of Ilavila the greatly celebrated son known as Kuvera, the giver of money. Vishala shunya bandhuscha dhumraketuscha tatsutaha Vishalo vanshakrit raja Vaishalim nirmame purim. Trinabindu had 3 sons named Vishala, Shunyabandhu, and Dhumraketu. Among these 3, Vishala created a dynasty and constructed a palace called Vaishali. Hemachandra sutasya dhumrakshastasya chatmaja tatputrat samyamad asit Krishashva Sahadevaja. The son of Vishala was known as Hemachandra. His son was Dhumaraksha, and his son was Sangyama, whose sons were Devaja and Krishashva. Krishashvat samadotto bhud Yoshvamedhar idaspatim Ishtva purusham apargyam Gatim yogeshvarashritam Tatputra janame jaya Ete vaishalabhupalas Trinabindur yashodhara. Oops, I forgot to read it on this thing. Somadatis to Somatis Tatputro Janame Jaya Ete Vishala Bhupalas Trinabindur Yashodhara. Finally, okay. The son of Krishava was Somadatta, who performed Ashvamedha sacrifices and thus satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. By worshipping the Supreme Lord, he achieved the most exalted post, a residence on the planet to which great mystic yogis are elevated. The son of Somadatta was Sumati, whose son was Janamejaya. All these kings appearing in the dynasty of Vishala properly maintained the celebrated position of King Trinabindu. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 2nd chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled The Dynasties of the Sons of Manu. Okay. So, what's the day after tomorrow? There's all the charts with the lineages. The day after tomorrow is the marriage of... Sorry, why did it say day after tomorrow? I meant to say tomorrow. Is the marriage of Sukanya and Chavan Muni. Oh yeah, this story is interesting. Oh, is it? Sorry, no, this is something else that I was thinking of. All right. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Maha-Bhagavat Srila Gokisharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Srila Satchid Ananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatt Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatt Raghunath Sharda Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Nam Achai Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradatta Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Dandavat Pranams. Before I started this reading, I wasn't feeling at all tired. And then the Dynasties, I think I found my new medicine for it's better than melatonin. Just go through long lists of Dynasties, and that can put anybody to sleep at nighttime. All right. Dandavat Pranams. Haribol. Haribol and Dira Mataji. Dandavat Pranams. Oh, is that Kasturi? Kasturi Manjari Mataji? Dandavat Pranams. All right. Haribol, everybody. Prajumna Prabhu, Haribol, Dandavat Pranams. You know so many different interesting facts. I mean, I don't know who the Hittis are, but yeah, that's really... Yes, better than melatonin or anything else. All right, Dandavat Pranams, everybody.